Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Oh, it's the pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time. Obsessed with the issue of violence. Mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Good evening, folks. I hope you're well. I hope you're hearing me. Hi to everyone in the chat. I'm seeing lots of lovely familiar faces. And let's see, Dollface, good to see you. Maverick, good to see you. Patrick Batman, good to see you. Theremin Trees, Dr. Prepper, Adam Loves Horror. It is great to see all of you. And Mima, check your email. Check your email, love. You have a picture of Teddy that I sent to you that I thought you'd appreciate. Folks, I hope you're doing well. We're here for episode 154 of Double Feature Horror Show. It will be an efficient stream, one hopes. I'm saying that only. I'm giving you a little forewarning to all of you joining live and you fabulous people on the replay. I am dead in this chair. I'm the crypt keeper right now because a little horror show. Oh my gosh, that's scarily good.
You're welcome. There's
Wow.
a reason you keep me around.
There are many reasons I keep you around. Yes. Hi, folks. I was woken up at 3:30 a.m. by darling little horror show who wanted to start the festivities off early, bless her heart. And I am off early in the morning to Swindon to speak to some fine, upstanding gentlemen. So we'll be efficient tonight, I think. But I hope you'll enjoy it. We're discussing Shallow Grave, and we're discussing a couple of things that came up. But who is this we? Who's this we I'm talking of? Well, obviously, Mergoot is here. Welcome back, Mergoot. Regular
Greetings
face.
all. I'm in the same boat as Proper Horror Show, not with the baby, but last night between the heat and heat nightmares it kicked my butt. So I'm flagging too.
Oh, it's Stream of the Dead here. But there's a very perky voice coming through that I'm sure friends of, yes, folks, absolutely Sargoon Land. Yes. Friends of the show, you will recognize Years, who won me over, and I've said this probably a few times, but won me over with one simple trick. She made notes. Anyone who writes notes tends to get invited. That and the contributions were fantastic. You're going to see Years twice in this arc, I'm very happy to say.
Woohoo!
Yes. And as Years has her own stream tonight, she's also going to be very grateful that we've got a compact one, eh?
Well, mine doesn't start for 3 hours, so I've got plenty of time. But yes, tonight is unfortunately for watching this show live. I have a new stream series I started about 7 or 8 months ago with the guy who lives in London. It's called Empire of Lies. And every week on Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern American time, 11 p.m. British time, we spend 1 hour to deliver a scripted and a little bit non-scripted presentation about one facet of this evil empire of lies, propaganda, and democratic subversion, because we want to create an educational but engaging series for people who want to better understand this complex evil world that we live in and what makes it tick. And tonight we're going to be covering the older NWO that became the globalists and how they are at odds in many ways with the Fabian Society and the Globo Homo super communists. And it's a not really a deep dive, but more of an ideological comparison to show that not all of these evil oligarchs that lord over us are the same, and they have conflicting ideological values and goals. And one of the things we do on our Empire of Lies series is we keep it positive. We tell you positive things. There are plenty of creators out there that will tell you how screwed up everything is and just give you black pills. But we are not black pilled. We give you positive, constructive things that you can do to navigate this horrible quagmire that we were all born into. So it's a very good series. We have the playlist on Odyssey and YouTube, and Rumble doesn't print playlists yet, but you can find all of our material on Rumble as well. And I have shared the link in the private chat for Chloe to share in the YouTube chat, and I would definitely like you guys to come check it out. If you could share that for us in the chat.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to. And I find it interesting that you have committed to that 1 hour format, because I think very much like, I don't know, I don't know what's the example I go to, but I thought of Inside Number 9, how having that restriction, I think, quite helps you.
And
because
also,
you have to refine it. You have to deliver as like two very tight presentations.
Yeah, for every hour that we make material, we spend between 4 and 8 hours doing research and preparation. Sometimes even more than that. Like sometimes Chris will read an entire 300 or 400 page book just for a 1 hour stream. And what we want to do is we want to try to make sense of all of the things that the dissident sphere talks about and deliver that into easy to understand and easy to educate yourself in material that is family friendly and aimed at like high school age audience people. So like, you don't have to be a brainiac or an autistic edgelord to be able to understand the things that we cover. Like we even have people that have homeschool groups that use our material to educate people. So it's a very good series that we've made.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I haven't made it clear enough, guys, recommended. I keep it mostly to movies on here, but, we have friends here. We have friends here who cover other stuff. And if you like Years Here Tonight, see us talk about other stuff.
I had one of the viewers that discovered me through your channel came to visit my Discordant Dragons, and she was very upset with what she discovered. So my brand of content is not for everyone. I am a hard dissident, and I'll leave it at that. You can discover more about me and find out if you like me and my content and my oeuvre. But the Empire of Lies series is the most erudite and presentable thing that I do. And it's very well received. And we are in the process of having a bunch of merch come out. So very soon, there will be merch available for our series.
Oh, congrats. Congrats. And last but not least, I have shamefully forgot to get up some lyrics. But nevertheless, he's absolutely treasured currently as that Vindaloo guy.
Where on earth are you from? We're from England. Where you come from? Do you put the kettle on? Da 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 da. Kick it, na na na.
There we go.
Na na na. Na 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 na. Na na na. Bonjour. Na na na. Monsieur. Na 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 na. As you can tell, I'm freaking happy.
What
Evening,
okay,
chat.
what did we do? Was it Netherlands?
It was the Netherlands.
Ah, okay. Well, hey, there's a bit of a connection here. Like
Yes.
you're
Oh, I'm
for
well aware.
people who don't know, for people outside the land of Britbongistan, TCG is singing an old classic song. Oh, I can't say this on YouTube. Vindaloo by Fat Les, and Fat Les, that's Les with an S, not a Z. It's not a slur, guys. But the vocalist in Fat Les, hope Years drops back in. She just dropped out there. The vocalist in Fat Les is none other than Keith Allen, who stars in Shallow Grave.
Boom. Look at that.
Is that deliberate?
It all ties together. It all ties together. Nice
All
and
roads
neatly in a little
lead
bow.
to Keith
It really
Allen.
ties the flat together.
Yeah.
Whey. Very nice, very nice. Welcome back. Yes, after a brief.
Was it my
brief
singing that
dropout.
cut you out? Was that where
No,
you
I
dropped out?
I
It
was
the singing, wasn't it?
repositioning my tabs and closing things, and my finger slipped, and I closed this tab. Nothing to worry about.
No worries, no worries, folks. All right, well, welcome all tonight. We do have a couple of matters to deal with before we get to Shallow Grave, and this is still efficient than we are most weeks. So one thing I was asked to comment on was the Nosferatu trailer. We watched it. Mogoot and I had a little refresh. Have TCG years? Have you seen the Nosferatu trailer from Robert Eggers, who I think we're all a bit impressed by, aren't we?
No, I go out of my way to never watch any trailers or commercials or anything made after 2010. I am completely done with modern media.
Understandable. TCG, how about yourself?
I think I watched it live when we were on one of the previous streams, but no, I haven't gone and watched it again yet.
No worries.
There's also another reason I don't watch trailers and commercials is because I started noticing a trend in the late aughts and early teens that trailers had a horrible propensity for showing visual clues that absolutely ruin all stories and surprises if you pay attention to the trailer. So I just stopped watching them.
A lot of them are just the whole plot.
Yeah.
You do find yourself, especially if they try and cram the most sort of iconic imagery in, you are sort of spending the film thinking, when's that happening? In the case of Nosferatu, I suppose we can be reasonably confident we know the plot. I'll keep it brief. I'm interested. I don't expect Eggers to do anything particularly typical. I was massively impressed by The Witch, less so by The Lighthouse. Northman won me back over again a little bit, but Nosferatu, I think he's doing something interesting. He seems to be leaning a little on the more expressive artistic side that Francis Ford Coppola did for his Dracula. But I trust him to do something interesting, something unique. It's stylish. It has not given a lot away, which maybe doesn't seem a huge problem for a story we all know very well.
It's a nice image, TCG. Very good.
Looking forward to it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Keithy boy, back on. Best thing to come out of Borstal. Young Keith Allen. All right, so quick thoughts on Nosferatu. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
It looks beautifully filmed. Still nothing beats Murnau's 1922 Nosferatu, but this looks very, very interesting.
From what little I saw of it when I was waiting to be brought in backstage, it looked good. And obviously this guy has chops, especially the Northman and the Witch. Very good stuff from him. I don't expect this to be terrible. I expect it to be at least above par at worst and perhaps stellar at best.
Yes. Let's we could be optimistic for that one with Eggers, I think. The next thing I wanted us to cover, and this is maybe slightly sad, you're probably expecting this, but we do have to say get this covered just quickly. We had some sad news just before we got on. So you might have caught this. It started going around about 5:30, so about 2.5 hours before we go live. And that is news I'm sure you will recognize instantly. That is Shelley Duvall, star of The Shining, and she passed away, I believe, today, very recently, just over the age of 75. So it took the wind out of my sails a bit, especially as we had some major losses recently from Roger Corman, Donald Sutherland, and for her to go, yeah, it's maybe not. How can I say? It's maybe not unexpected, but it still catches you out. She'd obviously sort of dropped away from acting for quite a long time. Had recently started coming back to acting in an indie movie, but otherwise she was sort of doing her own thing. There were some interviews that she did related to that indie movie. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of it. It was in 2021. And yeah, she looked older, obviously, but she also looked like you could really see she was just like a regular Texan, woman. She did the interview in a car, and she's just taking advantage of the air conditioning. But you know what? She was a woman in just entering 70, but she was bright. She was high spirited. She did it must have been like her 1,000th interview, but she did it in good humor. She was asked about everything you expect her to be asked about. And yeah, she was talking about The Shining, and once again, she's sort of correcting those misconceptions that she hates Kubrick, that Kubrick's this evil guy. She's like, what she does say, it was a very tough experience, but she grew from it. I think that's a good way that she framed it. I'll just open it to the panel. Any particular thoughts on Shelley Duvall's passing?
I don't have any. I mean, I like her. She was a good actress. I enjoy watching her on screen in several things, and I hope that she rests easy now.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Avoided a heck of a lot of chaos that tends to come with a lot of Hollywood. So good on her.
Yeah, a big loss.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll always remember her for Popeye.
Oh yeah.
God, that's a blasphemy cast.
We very nearly covered one of her lesser seen creations. So she went and did her own little anthology series once. Shelley Duvall's Bedtime Stories, and I think she did one called Nightmares. I might be getting that confused, but she did her own little anthology series that I was tempted to cover, which I thought was kind of creative. So she got on the producing side as well, but yeah, just someone who managed to stay clear of scandal and chaos largely.
In a way, it's quite fitting that we're covering this film tonight, because Ewan MacGregor was in Dr. Sleep, and I believe Shelley Duvall had a role in that as well.
Oh, that's true. So
I never saw Dr. Sleep.
I can't entirely recommend. So Shelley Duvall wasn't in it, but in Dr. Sleep, Mike Flanagan cast people to look as close as possible. And I am struggling, but the actress cast as Shelley Duvall is someone called Alexa, who is the star of a film called Starry Eyes from 2014, and also starred in Midnight Mass. I can't remember her exact name, but I thought she did a rather good job in that, sort of looking as close to Shelley as possible. And they got a guy who was amazing for Scatman Crothers, but they had Henry Thomas as Jack Torrance, and that was not very convincing. And someone did an amazing deep fake over it later that was far better. But yeah, that's a good connection to pick up on there. Yeah. So I said in the chat, it feels a little bit like a 2016 replay when you've got all these absolutely iconic people passing. But it's a little sad, but I think she had a pretty good life, and she's held warmly in many people's memory. So rest in peace, Shelley. And with that, I'll move us on, folks. So your F's in the chat and your RIPs are very much appreciated. And with Scatman Crothers. I mean, real name Benjamin, but I don't know. Benjamin Crothers, obviously Scatman, bit catchier. All right, folks. Right, we are going to get into our film tonight. We are discussing 1994 Shallow Grave from director Danny Boyle. And actually, no, we're going to stop for 1 second to do the shilling.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Of course, we're going to shill. Hey, I mean, we thanked people watching on the replay. We can't forget the shill. So if we do it, everyone's links are below, and I just posted the link to Yiz's stream, which is going to be later tonight, Emperor of Lies, in the chat. everyone's links. But if anyone has anything in particular they want to mention,
I'll be doing a community quiz tomorrow.
There we go.
Over on my channel. We've got, hopefully, Mergut, you'll be there.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. We'll have the usual lot. But we've also got Diatrip joining us tomorrow, which will be very, very nice. Very nice. Haven't had him on for a while, so that'll be quite good.
I hope it goes well. Sounds fun.
And I'll also, bless you, thank you. And I'll also be streaming Alien Isolation right after as well. I was supposed to on Monday, but I completely forgot. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't until I was going back on the stream I did on Sunday, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I actually said I was going to do that. I just haven't got around to it this week. So yeah, tomorrow night's going to be a busy evening. So
have you played that game before? I'm just curious.
I'm about. I think I'm in the 6th chapter at the moment.
Okay.
Mission is it's terrifying. I am absolutely wetting myself. It's not. It's not good on the old ticker, let me tell you. I'm actually holding it in my hand right now, and it's just, my days. I had a rough time. I had a rough time with Soma, but this is just another level. And I've been watching people like play some of the survivor modes with mods. They've had like 5 aliens, invisible aliens. One even swapped out the alien for Thomas the Tank Engine. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's quite funny because when you get caught, instead of the old raw sort of animation, like sound effect, it does the old.
Oh dear,
that's great. I'm absolutely hooked.
Nice. Mergut, anything from you?
Just my X account at Mergut. Just random stuff I find fascinating or funny.
Yeah, there we go. And your stream was mentioned.
Indeed.
All right, folks. Well, with that said, TCG has done a handy reminder. Yes, we are on YouTube. We've got a shill. So while you're here, all 23 of you, let's have a good old take your shoe off and just hammer that like button. You hammer it just when it's expecting you to help it. And
the
subscribe
homework for next week.
Oh yeah, good point. Very good point. Okay. Right, so there's hammer the like, subscribe if you aren't subscribed. If you want to help the channel, help me fund my disgraceful growing book addiction, then do please help out with super chats either here or on Subscribestar, membership either here or on Subscribestar. It all helps, and you get all the exclusive access and voting rights on arcs, all that good stuff. And our new experiment announcing the next week's horror homework early. We are going with, I'll say Mute Witness for ease and certainty because I haven't checked Years' availability. So I'll say we're going with Mute Witness next week, which is quite an interesting production. Should be able to find it nice and easy. It's on Shudder as well. If you've got a Shudder account or a trial that you forgot to cancel. So there we go. Next week, underrated 90s gem, Mute Witness. It's a Russian production.
Can I just add to the shill that I did for tomorrow's quiz? So
of course you can.
It's actually going to be a proper true crime quiz tomorrow. At Christmas time, my wife bought me a true crime quiz book by Chris Allen. And so we will be taking inspiration from his quizzes. There are in total, hang on a second, a lot. There's like 60 odd quizzes in here, 62 quizzes that they have. And so we'll be taking a very, very small sample of these and we'll be putting them out to the audience. And full disclosure, I will pop a link in the description if I can find it on Amazon or whatever. And so if anybody wants it, it's not a paid promotion or anything like that, just to be clear, YouTube. But yeah, if I'm extracting from something, I like to just put it out there as well. So it's going to be a proper true crime quiz. So yeah, let's go.
All right, yeah, absolutely. So keeping this tight and efficient, 25 minutes into the stream.
Jesus, that is though.
That is efficient for us. All right. Yeah, so this is from 1994, debut from Danny Boyle. He clubbed together his production money the way you usually do in Britain. You go to the government. Basically that. Do I make my film in Edinburgh or where there's all this great scenery, or do I make it in Glasgow where they're going to give me about 700 grand out of the Glasgow Film Fund?
Why not both?
Yeah. Well, you can guess what persuaded him. Yeah, this is shot largely around Glasgow, taking advantage of some kind of interesting Scottish scenery. You've got some very early talent as well. My VHS copy of this is not the original printing VHS. It is a 2000s era printing, and you can tell that because it advertises itself as with Ewan MacGregor from Star Wars: The Phantom Menace.
Oh no!
Yes, yes. But yeah, he's got some rising stars in it. Kerry Fox, Christopher Eccleston, and Ewan MacGregor in this. Keith Allen, maybe a bit more of a niche figure, and Ken Stott. I get his name wrong. I always get his name wrong. Let's confirm. It is Ken Stott. Yes. He gets to rock up as a detective briefly.
It's like a Columbo kind of style, isn't it? Just one more thing.
He's there for a little bit of, he really reminded me of the Willem Dafoe detective in American Psycho.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My mind was going there.
Yeah. This is Michael Myers. That is the OG. That is the gorgeous one. Yeah. If anyone remembers, I don't think I've got that design, but look up the original because it's a bit good. Yeah, so this was cobbled together on very little money. Almost everything went on the set, which means it has kind of a how can I say, an almost restrained character in some way. It hasn't got a lot of money to throw at gore. So what it ends up doing... I think
it worked in the movie's favor, though.
Yeah, massively.
Because this movie not being gory, I think really helps it. Because it's not... This movie is not a gore fest, like even in tone or presentation. It's more of a mix of like a whodunit or who is doing it, can they get away with it thriller, more than it is a you're just waiting for the next knife to strike type of movie.
Yes. And we've watched a fair few horrors. You know how they kind of cut to the effect shot, which just sort of has it can take you out of it a bit, Whereas in this, they don't have an effect shot. So all the violence tends to happen either in your imagination or it's just shown directly on camera with a kind of immediacy that makes it really effective.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you guys? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I like it because when movies, whether by choice or because of budget restraints, or just because you're trying to not have too awful of a rating, I just think sometimes it works in a movie's favor to have quickly shot, more realistic violence. Like, somebody gets quickly stabbed and falls over and they scream. Okay, that's it. Instead of a whistling giallo sting of music and blood spraying everywhere and the killer cackling as it stabs the person 50 times. Like, that works sometimes, but I think that when you handle violence more realistically and swiftly, it can help move a movie along and not take you out of what else is going on. And that works definitely for this movie because the focus is not on the gore and the killing. It's on, we'll get into that, but but I do think that works in this movie's favor.
Well said. This took off, made cheaply, went around, did the usual thing, went around film circuits, got a reputation, got great responses, had to be replayed a bunch of times at film festivals due to demand. This is what launched Danny Boyle's career, and it clearly shows his sort of skill with horror. And of course, he would make a few other kind of films that leaned on his sort of more frenetic energy, films like the very little remembered A Life Less Ordinary. But And you see the frenetic energy also in Train Spotting, but it also showed horror credentials that he would really show off in 28 Days Later. And I think the style of 28 Days Later really is explained by Shallow Grave. But before going further, I'll just throw it out. I like to ask this. Who had seen this before? Who had heard of it before? Mergut, can I ask you first?
I went in blind.
Ooh.
It was an interesting movie. I'm glad I saw it, but hadn't even really heard of it until you brought it up, and just went in blind.
Oh, so it's... Have I actually found something kind of underrated? Wait, no, if you hated it, it's not. Oh, darn it. We'll find out, I guess. TCG, how about yourself?
Heard of it, went in blind, and I have to say, Mergu, I am surprised you haven't seen this. Like, you've seen every film.
Well, this kind of film isn't exactly mine and Mergut's cup of tea.
I watched a lot in the 90s. This one slipped by the radar. I mean...
okay, fair enough.
So some of the films for the hidden gems that kind of got passed by, Dust Devil, Richard Stanley's Dust Devil, Richard Stanley's Hardware, I definitely seen, but a lot of small British flicks I missed in the 90s.
I won't lie, watching this film, I kind of got distracted with this creeping thought in my head as to how Disney Plus are going to ruin the Doctor Who Obi-Wan Kenobi crossover.
Oh, no.
What?
Oh, dear. Please tell me that's just a casting joke.
I'll see myself out.
Yeah. There we go.
Get your coat, son. Get your coat.
Taxi for DCG. Yes, how about yourself? Going in blind, I assume?
I had only seen it on Ewan MacGregor's IMDb. Didn't know anything about it. Didn't even remember it existed until you brought it up to me. And I also went in blind. And I didn't hate it by far. It is well done. It has charm. It is artfully done. Obviously, this guy is a good director who went on to do other things. I enjoyed watching it. It's not my cup of tea. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again. But everyone gave a good performance. The movie didn't waste my time. The story was good. It was fun to watch. A good popcorn movie. I had a good time with it, but not my cup of tea. But I definitely would recommend other people check it out.
I think that's very fair. Yeah, I mean, I really wanted for this arc to try and get those films that are like, oh yeah, that's on the IMDb. Okay, right. But like, you maybe have kind of heard of it, or you've never heard of it. Ideal, but that's what I'm going for. Also, you say it didn't waste your time. You're not wrong. We are in giallo territory here.
Yeah, a lot happens
minutes.
really quickly in this movie once it gets going.
Yeah, 88 minutes. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely love to see it. Now, for anyone who has not managed to see it yet, we will give you a very quick pint of Guinness summary. We'll summarize the film in the time it takes to pour a pint of Guinness. So about 2 minutes or less. It depends how good your barman is, really. Some of them really don't. They don't like to do that pause, you know, that you gotta... Anyway. Is anyone feeling like stepping up and doing the challenge?
I most certainly will if no one else wants to.
I was about to say, go on, Yes.
Rock on, Yes. You're great at these.
All right, this movie takes place, as mentioned before, in Glasgow. The three actors are flatmates who seemingly have been friends for quite some time. As is usually the case in movies of this era, of this ilk, the people are a mix of likable, snarky, and insufferable. These characters, the actors that play these characters, do an excellent job of presenting themselves as being very different, and you wonder why early on they are even friends at all and why they are flatmates. These three people here, the movie starts off with them interviewing to find a fourth flatmate, and they seem to be making a game of it. It is fun for them. They even... That's a good one. I like that.
I love that.
I had to do it.
So tell us, why do you want to live with us then? Well, you see, I've just been evicted from my house in Downing Street.
Who are you kidding? That little goblin is richer than we'll ever be. He's worth like $200 million. All right.
He's going to get pissed off by the flat and evict him.
He's going to be so mad about being kicked out of politics. He's going to beat up Ewan MacGregor in a bathroom. Shall I continue?
Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
That's fine. To make this quick, before we get into the particulars, these people are fairly common for, low to mid budget, interesting, trying to be unique, new and fresh type of movies you started seeing in the early 90s. Very much Gen X snarky, very much Gen X archetypes of, especially Ewan MacGregor's character of the whole world is a joke. I'm just going to do what feels good and make fun of everybody. Who cares? Just a leaf on the wind type of thing. The character that Christopher plays, I forget his name, but he's a much more straight-laced business guy. I think he works for an accounting firm. Is that his official job? Is that what he does?
The accountant.
Yeah. David, that's his name, yeah. And then the woman is a medical doctor. And we quickly learn that these people, for whatever reason, they've known each other for a while. They live together and they want a new flatmate. They're interviewing people. They eventually settle on this, the gentleman that TCG is using for his avatar picture. They settle on this gentleman who is a bit mysterious, but has a unique charm to him. And come to find out, though, he is some kind of criminal. He dies of a heart attack in his room the night he moves in. And they discover that he has a massive amount of illegal, stolen, or crime dollars in a big suitcase, and they have to decide what to do with it. Well, the guy is dead. They labor over what to do about it, and they make the best decision of their rotten little lives to take the money for themselves, dismember the body, cut off his hands and feet, pull out his teeth, and bury him out in the woods. What a great idea. I'm sure that won't end in tears for them one bit. So they do this, they labor over it. This is my favorite part of the movie, actually, is the first act. I really enjoyed it the most. I kind of predicted the rest of it because I've watched a lot of movies and read a lot of stories, but getting there was still fun. But they labor over what to do, and they draw straws, and straight-laced accountant David is the one who has to do the dismembering of the corpse when they bury him in the woods. And as you might imagine, when millions of pounds or millions of euros worth of drug money or crime money disappears, some very unsavory characters come looking for that money. And so they do that. And David, who is disturbed and having very sad, unfortunate, dissociative episodes, has walled himself off up in the attic. Well, when the crime guys come in through the door to basically beat up and kill the people in the apartment to get their effing money back, well, they go up into the attic and David kills them both. And technically, I think one of them dies downstairs, but it doesn't matter. The two criminals who come to get the money also get killed. And so they have the great idea to dismember them the same and bury them out in the woods in the same place. And since these people are idiots that don't know what to do with the body and don't know anything about crime or investigations, it doesn't take long. It's just a few days. And, well, lo and behold, it's either a dog or somebody finds something. I forget what it is. Probably a dog, as it usually is when you don't bury a body deep enough. The bodies are found, and the detectives, the police get involved, and it makes the people sweat. And so the rest of the movie is about them dealing with the fallout of the police investigation, David losing his mind, and them having to try to decide when to cut and run, what to do with the money, how they're going to handle the pressure. And in typical movie fashion like this, they all end up turning on each other. And it is revealed to us just what awful, rotten, shallow, terrible people they all three are. And I feel the worst for David, but he was a spineless person who did not have... he doesn't have his act together. He has a low sense of self, probably has a piss poor mental state to begin with, probably didn't have good parenting. And you can see this in David's character because he is completely dominated by the will and the manipulations of his two flatmates, one for sexual romantic reasons, the other just for he's a weak-willed person reasons. And he gets himself in too deep in this. He wishes he hadn't done it, and he has a break. He is not well, and it goes very poorly for David. He's the most sympathetic, but again, they're all kind of crappy people that I don't really have any sympathy for at all. And it is shown to us by the end of the film that they all try to turn on each other. They all try to steal the money, and they all get what's coming to them. and I will leave the way the film ends as a mystery for now. But that is, I think, about as quick as I can sum up the whole movie.
And very nicely done. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I mean, there's a lot I could pick up on there as a starting point. I'll open the floor to Mergut and TCG though, if there's anything you want to go off in particular.
During the interviews, I really wanted to punch Ewan MacGregor's character, Alex.
Oh, yes.
I've known people like that, and I can't say it on YouTube, but he has a very punchable attitude.
Can I throw out there, because you've picked up on basically what I was going to go for as well. Yiz's summary of them as like Gen X snarky. It kind of shocked me because when I was watching this over 20 years ago on the old VHS, I was like, man, Alex is so cool. What a cool guy. He doesn't care about anything.
I mean,
now.
people our age when we were teenagers, I mean, that's what was cool back then. We should have thought that guy was cool back then. But in hindsight, no, just a crappy, pathetic product of his era.
Yeah. I'm actually I'm most sympathetic towards poor David.
Yeah, me too.
You know, he was one that they kind of tried to offload stuff on. He had to be persuaded. He kind of has the most he gets the brunt of the morality tale, doesn't he? Because he was the one most against it. Juliet and Alex, you know, they started off completely morally corrupt.
Yeah.
David had to be corrupted, and so it hits him hardest. Can I say I absolutely love how Juliet is an absolute monster.
Oh, she's a psychopathic manipulator. Like she's the most evil of all three of them by far.
Oh, I'm so glad you agree. Yeah, this is an
100%.
This whole film is anti-simp treatment.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's great how obviously manipulative she is. How she'll just flit from person to person. Oh man. And she'll cash in on people, doing a little bit of simping as well. But ultimately, you know, she lets Alex kind of take the heat for her and then betrays him anyway. I absolutely loved how rotten she was. And it kind of made me wonder, there's a bit of a subplot with Juliet that on this watch I kind of noticed doesn't really go anywhere. Where she has a stalker.
Keeps going.
Yeah. It made me wonder, like, I'm not saying he's a cool guy, but it just kind of made me wonder why he keeps calling. Like, just because she's so horrible, it almost made me wonder.
I think that was in the movie. I think that was in the movie to show us that she plays a lot of men, not just the ones that she's living with. I think that's what that was for.
Yeah. TCG, what did you think of that sort of? Did this have that like 90s snark vibe for you?
Oh God, 100%. And I'm sorry, but I'm one of those who can really sort of like cast my mind back to that time period. And yeah, I thought Alex was quite hilarious actually. And although yeah, I mean David's character arc, the way he just goes completely dark mode, man. That's, I mean, he clearly has the biggest fall. And yeah, Juliet from the outset, I could just tell was manipulative, and it was so funny because when they were towards the end when they're fighting in the kitchen again, I'm sure we'll get into that later. I don't want to spoil it, but I just said to myself, I bet she's going to do X, and she did exactly that. I was like, yeah, she was playing the both of them. There's like you say, the subtle tells in that film, in the film that sort of give it that if you sort of pay attention to, will sort of give it away as to what her character's actually like. But yeah, massively manipulating, massively.
Yeah,
it almost felt. I'm not good with my Shakespeare, so forgive me if I'm getting the wrong one, but it almost. I was thinking Macbeth, you know, like just
out damn spot.
Due to how the movie ends, Telltale Heart maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take your way. Like I say, I mean, we spoke about this extensively. I think when we did the Vincent Price film, my knowledge of Shakespeare is very, very poor. But yeah, I could just imagine it like just some sort of ultimate betrayal at the end. I just felt like, yep, that's absolutely something. It's absolutely something I could see him writing.
Yeah. Can I? I mean, I kind of want to feel. There's some great comments here. I'm just going to get this image up so I'm reminded. Apologies for filth, folks, but yeah, there's kind of a blend of the Lady Macbeth in that she encourages other people to do the needful, as our XPM might say, without wanting to get her own hands dirty.
Yeah,
like she's very good at that. But I think what Years mentions there with the Telltale Heart, for anyone who doesn't get the reference, that's Edgar Allan Poe. That's Harry, and it'd be like, oh yeah, I know it from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I'm here to stand for Edgar Allan Poe. I believe he is the greatest American writer to have ever penned.
Best thing to come out of Baltimore, right?
Indeed, especially these days.
My introduction to the Telltale Heart, it was an old LP, Disney's horror classics, and Telltale Heart was narrated not by Vincent Price.
Oh, if only.
It was narrated, I believe, by Peter Cushing.
Ooh, I bet that was nice.
It was a freaky tale, and that was the first time I heard it, and then I read Poe in high school in the 80s. But yeah, that vibe is definitely there. The other thing I wanted to talk about was how blatant the foreshadowing was. It kind of spoiled the movie for me because I spotted it. They used all the crime thriller tropes, and it's like, yeah, that's what he's doing when he's cutting the newspaper up.
Yep.
You got that pretty quick, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, that's why earlier I said that the first act was my favorite, because it kind of telegraphed and maybe it's just because I've read a lot and I've watched a lot of film, but I kind of knew where it was going pretty early on in the movie. For not just that reason, but the way that you could tell that these characters were untrustworthy and didn't really like each other. Like, it was pretty obvious they were all going to turn on each other, and one of them was going to be the one to cleverly outdo the rest as the third act finale. And it was quite clear it was going to be Ewan MacGregor's character.
Yes. Yeah. They did a small amount of setup for it, and we should probably clarify. Well, we'll maybe clarify what we're talking about when we explicitly get to the end. But a little bit of setup. There's a scene that looks a little out of place with your man. Hang on. If you're not paying attention, if you're just looking at other stuff, you might be like, why is he bringing so many copies of the newspaper back? He's sitting in his room with a whole bunch of. Why does if you don't stop and think, what does he need those for?
That's a crime trope from the 70s and 80s that was just so blatant to me.
Yeah.
You could tell they were committing the perfect crime by going off of all the thriller movies from the 70s and 80s without any thought of going past them.
Clearly, Alex watched Rope.
we can hope.
That one landed, Adam. That one landed.
There's one thing I wanted to go back to this. Just when we're talking about those rumors that look, well, this is a family stream. So there was something we were saying before we went live, kind of the thing about Shallow Grave is it's quite simple. It's a pretty simple story. There's not all that much to unpack from it.
Hmm.
It's a simple story we've seen before, told very well. You know, you have to have a certain moral character to be tempted, given to temptation, and the very nature of that is that the deed unravels you. The telltale heart, but writ large. Blood simple, writ large. But there's some nice touches in this. Now, this still is from a scene where they're starting to loosen up a bit. They're getting a little flexible. They're spending the money. They're getting reckless. David has been changed, and his temper is getting the better of him.
He's
and
gone
there's a-
paranoid, and
Hmm.
it's no, don't spend it. We have to find a way to hide it for a while. He wraps it up in the valise in plastic and hides it in the swamp cooler tank in the attic.
Yeah.
And he's taking the smart moves, but he's gone full bore paranoid with it.
Yeah. And like in this, you see him snap from the tension. But with with Alex, played by Ewan MacGregor, and Juliet, there's a really nice detail here. So they're dancing, going a bit crazy, then they get a little flirtatious. Alex falls down drunk, and there's a change as Juliet sort of dominates him. I was going to show that we get an upward view from here, and then I realized actually YouTube would probably hate it, and we do have laws specifically against upskirting in the UK. So we're going to keep it family friendly, but before we see this shot,
This is not a family-friendly image, I would like to say.
True. Maybe in the Dan Schneider house. Anyway. So we get a look down. Sorry, we get the look up at her dominating him, right? Then we get this down angle, consistently, like we know what the eye lines are. He's like, okay, I'm kind of having fun here. I'm liking this. We get within seconds a switch to this angle.
Yep.
Right? She's looking down on him. They're looking down on him. It's kind of like, it's a really good bit of visual storytelling that what he's looking, enjoying, feeling seduced by is absolutely his downfall. And my goodness, you cannot trust her. And that's all conveyed by this little switch here. I thought that was really well done. Yeah, so
bathtub scene.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Patrick.
Hang on. Oh no.
No.
Oh. What do you reckon?
Oh, no.
Members TCG?
No. It's going to take a very, very large super chat.
Oh.
Something like that.
Here's an interesting one.
And
So
all I'm going to say is, Enrieb, don't you dare.
the NREAB's hey, the NREAB can make a massive super chat on here if he wants to. Don't. He's drawing an interesting one. Now, I've got to confess, I don't know my Chaucer.
Yeah, nor do I. I'm not familiar with
So I
partners.
apologize, the NREAB. We haven't picked up on that. But that's an interesting one. They even draw short stories in the film, which is a clear reference to the Pardoner's Tale. Does someone want to quickly look that up? And I'm not doubting you, the NRAB. I'm sure that's legit, but I'd be interested in how far it goes. It certainly feels like a
40
very
years since I've read Chaucer. The only thing I remember from Chaucer is the Miller's Tale.
Yeah, I had to read some of the Miller's Tale for, I think, English 1 or English 2 in high school, and I don't remember anything about it, and that's the only Chaucer I ever read. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, you're too classy for us, Henry. I'm feeling really glad we got that reach in there. I'm going to do a Jungian thing in a second if it makes you feel better. Certainly makes me feel better, seeing as I'm basically a Philistine here in this context. But we'll look into that. Adam Loves Horror sent in $2 saying, here's for all the jokes. Take my dollars. Thanks for these chats. You're very welcome. I'm glad you enjoy it. It's a fun one. We try and have a bit of fun on here. When we're looking at like deeper aspects in this film, one thing I did want to talk about was I mean, I mentioned it here, so I'll sort of mention it now. There is a deeper level to this. So, do you guys mind if I do a reach?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So, there's some really interesting analysis of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is based around the fact that Dr. Jekyll will go out the front door of the house, and Mr. Hyde always sneaks out the back. And there's some lovely analysis about how that's kind of like the Jungian shadow, how that dark side, the worst impulses will express themselves if not monitored, right? So you have the shadow side that you try and you can't present publicly. If you guys want to read a bit more on that, Stephen King's Don's Macabre touches on that in a chapter that's quite good. And I like to look to that analysis. And in this film, we have someone who does a very difficult deed, and then he retreats. David retreats, and he retreats into the attic. And I like to think of the attic as sort of symbolizing the cerebral or the higher spiritual, kind of like in Hellraiser. You know, it's notable in that film, all the stuff goes on up in the attic and not in the basement, right? In this, he retreats to the attic like he's trying to process it. He's going into his own realm, but he's trying to contain everything as well. But
He also drills all the peepholes in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's also, if you want to get deep into this with symbolism here.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, please.
It's like the dark, horrible things he did are trapped in his mind, and now David has become a prisoner in his own mind, and he's having to drill through that barrier just to see what normal life is like, and he can only peep in on it.
Oh, yeah, I like that as well. Yeah,
he's become trapped in his own darkness. Yeah,
he's trapped, but he also he can't contain it. Like, it does leak. The idea that you can't compartmentalize it. It will leak out, which is kind of the message of this film, right? It's you can't just do a little bit. You can't just do this little evil thing and put it in a box.
I thought it was interesting when everybody was leaving the house. David went through all the peepholes to check all the rooms, and he's watching Juliet sleep, wake up, start prepping for her morning, and as soon as she starts undressing, he covers his face. And I mean, that's pure Freudian.
I might be having an absolute mental breakdown, and I might have just ended the lives of two people in cold blood. But my God, I am not a peeping Tom. That's where I draw the line. Seeing women in their underwear.
I was glad of that, to be honest. It sort of leaned away from the sleaze a bit, and then it's sort of bolstered by the fact that he goes downstairs and then it's him who's seen completely nude. You know, he's got his full arse out in the shower. I thought that was a nice touch. But then it's a weird thing that Danny Boyle has done. He's always weirdly leaned into male nudity. You guys noticed that? Yeah.
I noticed that you always notice it.
Oh, come on.
I'm just teasing.
All right. Yeah, so I think there's some good stuff in there. There is some deeper symbolism here, and I thought that Jungian shadow thing, but yeah, the retreat as well. The fact that he ends up just sort of becoming voyeuristic.
Yeah, he's scrambling to keep his morals, and he's slowly losing.
Totally. We get so many shots. I mean, this was another lovely device. We start off with a shot basically like this. We get so many devices where he's just absolutely expressionless. He's like atomized. He's disassociated. Like, this act has done that to him. and then ultimately, like, we see him like this, sleeping and waking, and then ultimately this is the exact same expression he has when he's on a mortuary slab. Like, it's sort of, okay, the second he did this, he signed his death warrant. Tim, yes, he did. He really did. He slopped the whole thing out. But then Ewan MacGregor does not need much encouragement to do that. It's like Kate Winslet, really.
All I remember about Ewan MacGregor being blatant is my eldest. I walked downstairs into the basement TV room, and all the lights were out, and all I could see was the TV was on, and I walked in, and she's sitting there. She's like 15, and she's sitting there watching The Pillow Book with Ewan MacGregor. It's like, you realize you aren't 17 yet, but it's Ewan MacGregor.
Dear. Joe, 1, good to see you. 2, Danny Boyle did indeed direct the British 2012 Olympic ceremony. And I see you're not a fan of it. You would probably get a little indication that Danny Boyle was going to put the kind of messages he put in if you watched his earlier film Millions. And I think he also did Yesterday, which is a film I probably can't discuss on YouTube, but I have opinions of.
Oh, Danny Boyle did Millions. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. That's a bit of an artifact. Like, no one mentions that film these days.
I have a lot of opinions I don't share on YouTube.
Many such cases, yes. Many such cases. I'll go to Swindon and I'll see how many I can get through the edit, as always. Although, speaking of full frontal nudity, maybe we should talk a little bit about Hugo quickly.
Sure.
We get the hints of his backstory. We also get this kind of amazing shot.
This was also in the first act, and I enjoyed this. This was good.
It was so. I mean, there's great. Was there any sort of camera work that stood out to you guys?
Just Hugo laid out on the red sheets. I mean, that was just to emphasize there's no gore to it, just him laying nude and overdosed.
I liked the camera work that went up and down through the floorboards and through the ceiling into the attic. Oh, no.
No, it's fine. It's fine for YouTube. I've got it. It's covered.
Okay.
0 sheets. 0 sheets. 0 sheets.
I would prefer 0 sheets, but, you know.
Oh, come on.
Oh, dear. I mean, this is done like a painting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching Barry Lyndon recently, and just like the way Kubrick sets that up to be like a painting, I honestly think Danny Boyle was trying that.
I mean, Keith Allen clearly didn't. That Vindaloo clearly didn't agree with him.
A very interesting figure in British cinema. Quite a wild lad.
All it needed was Mary.
Knob covering a knob.
All it needed was a picture of Mary to recreate the paella. With him laying out dead like that, just with the sheets and him lying supine and naked and dead.
I mean, yeah, it's very like.
Am I the only one who would rather see that poor dead man's John Thomas than Rishi Sunak?
No,
you're
not the only one.
I love that the comments are going.
And I'm not gay. Yeah.
I'd
rather see Keith Allen's Winky Doodle than Rishi Sunak's wet bonce.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Year's great call on some of the camera work, like the tracking shots. I mean,
Yeah.
you're set up for that. There's
also
quite a few of them that add this great motion to it.
The visual cinematography for David having to do the dark business in the woods was also very striking. It was very good.
Mhm.
Oh, the backlit stuff.
Yeah, it was very good.
I'll get that up there. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Also, the scene in the attic where the criminal's climbing the ladder and he turns on the light and all you see is a backlit David with the hammer, and the next thing you know, all you hear is the hammer blow and him dropping through the trapdoor onto the other criminal. That was a pretty good cut shot.
Yeah. It felt to me like it was just that, it was part of that moment of where they made the violence immediate. Like those bodies just get pushed down and smack on the floor, and it feels documentary like, verite like you were just there. It's not embellished. Like you get moments where it's played up like this, where it is extremely dramatic, but mostly when you see the violence, it is, oh gosh, where is it?
It's not stylized, it's just brutal truth.
It's very no nonsense, realistic violence and killing.
Yeah, this one especially.
Like I liked, my favorite one was when the criminals trying to find out where their money was, freeze that guy to death, and then he just nonchalantly, like he's working a stock at a grocer, just puts those heavy bags of cement on the freezer to kill that guy to death by freezing him. I thought that was very that landed really well to set the tone.
Yeah, in this scene, when David comes down and starts freeing them, you notice he looks at them and he frees Juliet first, even though Ewan MacGregor has a bag over his head. And you can tell where his priorities lay.
Yeah. I mean, like, sticking on the scene, this is kind of the standout for me in just terms of how it's not gratuitous, it's deliberately unstylish, and everything is so immediate. You feel like you're just in the room, like, just what
Really
works for me
simple.
so well is just those guys just don't mess around, bust in and just wreck Juliet and Alex instantly.
I mean, they are professional organized crime thugs, so I thought they acted appropriately and very realistically.
Yeah, it was so believable. Like, you really got the sense of the threat from them. Yeah. Yes, you mentioned the guys in the freezer. I was also a fan of when they're drowning the chap. You get that shot.
That's very Giallo-esque. That reminded me of 70s Giallo imagery.
What's Steve Buscemi doing there?
He's got a bit of that. I think that's one of the strengths of the film. Like the fight at the end is maybe sad to say, film, when they all three turn on each other. I hate to say it, but that's kind of the worst bit of the movie.
Yeah.
It's very awkward. Do you guys get that?
I thought it was funny watching Juliet try and get the suitcase out with the money.
Very
and she picks it up, drops it, and has to drag it across the floor and thumps it down the staircase. That was symbolizing just how much money was in there.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. I quite liked the scruffiness and the clunkiness of it all.
It wasn't bad, but I do agree with Chloe that I think that the movie starts a lot stronger than it finishes.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was surprised actually, because I thought that the heavies would have played a more prominent role in the film. You know, so yeah, the suddenness of it all caught me by surprise.
Is that Like when they die, or just when they bust in?
When they just the whole build up, because you
Mm.
know throughout the film that these guys are getting closer, and you know,
Yeah, when
And
they
you can
hit the down-
tell that they mean business.
exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, it felt very. I'm trying to think of. It felt very like The Strangers, in that sort of like how it would sort of play out. How I felt it would sort of play out. In terms of the violence, and because you could tell, because it's made
Well,
abundantly
they've
clear
traced-
that these guys are very, very violent individuals, and they like you guys have mentioned, they're quite adept at tracking, and they're not
they track
incompetent.
Hugo to the building, but they go the wrong flat, and
That's right.
makes David comes down in his tidy whities and witnesses everybody just standing around looking at the corpse in the downstairs flat, and he goes upstairs and gets even more nervous.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I'd go for that. It is also notable that they do go out kind of quickly, but I think it's paid off well, because one, it establishes David as a bigger threat.
Yeah, no, don't get me
Also,
wrong.
thematically,
Yeah.
I think, like, really, the problem the downfall has to come from within them.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. I totally agree. I'm not saying what they did was wrong. Like, or that's not what I'm trying to get across.
Okay.
I had the vibe that they would play a more prominent role than they did, but I tell you now, I am more than happy that they removed them from the film as quickly as possible, and had the main focus being the dynamic and the chemistry between the three friends, especially David's sort of like descent into madness and paranoia. I felt like they paid attention to the right parts. Is what I'm saying. But yeah, like they could have easily. It could have easily been one of those films where they come into this money, and they get like the tension and the disagreements and the fallings out. But then these two come along, and it's sort of like one of those, we got to pull together to survive kind of films. And do you know what I mean? So I'm actually glad they didn't go down that route, and actually went with with the decision that they made.
Yeah, their final fight, like story wise, I'm totally there. I think my only problem is what Michael Myers has said as well. It's just that final fight feels a bit awkward. Weirdly, like the dynamic was, I can't fault it. Juliet and David have agreed to go, even though they've got tension. They're like the official pair, and Alex is going to be left off. But it's only when you get the instability of David then turning on Juliet. You just sort of don't know where the fight will lie, because so for me, it was just purely about how they delivered that fight, which was a bit awkward. And I think that's just, a bit of amateurishness, a bit of difficulty, maybe not as much time, low budget. And if they'd had a bit more support, then they could have made it a lovely standout fight. Although possibly I'm hugely wrong, and I'm kind of hoping they would do some quite stylized.
Well, it's better.
Maybe it should just be messy.
It's better that it was a simple fight, and the amateurishness comes through, because they have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with Margaret here. I think that the sloppiness and the chaos of the final fight does sort of show that these people are not. They're not experienced. They're not good at this stuff. They are all unstable and messed up. And I don't have a problem per se with the final fight, other than I didn't really think it was necessary. Like, if you want the characters to turn on each other and kill each other, it would have been maybe harder to write or to squeeze into the third act. But the psycho evil woman, what's her name? Juliet.
Juliet.
It would have been more appropriate for her to have like being a medical doctor, to bring something from work and subtly poison the food that she knows that David is going to eat to get him out of the picture, and then either stab or also poison Alex, and then just disappear in the night. That would have made a lot more sense with her character.
Yeah, the foreshadowing I picked up, I thought maybe poison or something like that, because
for the medical doctor thing. Yeah, and like they all share the same fridge, they eat the same foods, and it's shown that Alex likes cereal. Milk would be very easy to poison. Like it's just, or even if she had powder, like she could sprinkle stuff in his cereal, and then she knows that David has to eat something, and she would know what that is, and it would be.
He does stop
they
eating
sit down
with
and
them.
eat the spaghetti, and this tastes different.
Yeah.
And I was expecting him to drop dead.
Yeah, see, that was the moment that I thought, okay, this makes sense. She's a psycho. She has a medical background. She knows how to poison people. So I assumed that she was going to poison David, and then nothing happened after the spaghetti scene.
Yeah.
I think it went a bit fast for that, but that would have been an interesting angle, and she would have absolutely done it. I think she just felt a bit intimidated by David, and so decided to kind of lean onto him and kind of get him to simp for her.
Well, less intimidated, more hesitant, because she didn't really know what he was going to do. Because he was becoming very, very, very erratic.
Yeah, there is. There's when he flips out at her party, and she likes it. She absolutely likes it, but then he kind of turns on them during this admittedly deeply, deeply subversive scene.
Oh, don't show this.
Deeply subversive. I had totally forgotten that was in there. Darn
Although
it,
I did like the fact that Alex calls out one of their former interviewees, makes fun of him, and then he gets trapped in the bathroom and just punched. And I was just cheering for the redhead.
Yeah. Oh, it was so satisfying.
I was very happy that little ginger guy got to give Alex some well-deserved comeuppance. It was nice.
Yeah, I think that guy was in the full Monty, wasn't he?
I believe so.
I don't remember. Yeah. I've only seen that once, and it was a lot of years ago.
Sorry, big. Apparently not. I'm thinking of a different ginger. Apologies.
They all look alike.
He does look a lot like the guy I'm thinking of. Anyway, there was a really good call here. The NREAB, you've got ahead of me. You've got ahead of me, my dude. You're 100% correct. I'll read your comment out. At the start, they interrogate potential flatmates. This is shown by bullying, and they dominate.
I was going to bring that up too. Good job, Henry.
Oh, you've got it as well. Yeah,
That was one of the things I had pinned to talk about. Yeah.
Can I show you here? I've got this. So this screen cap is labeled reversal. By the way, the younger detective there is the writer of the film. Look at him! Look at him! He snuck on.
That's right.
He snuck on set. Cheeky little scamp.
Little Gamba has a good point too. If you could bring that up. Making your characters disempowered and inexperienced is key to making them feel like everyman.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a sec. I'll get that to a second. I just wanted to point out, like, this is a decent. It's kind of a motif that is returned to a couple of times. There's a nice bit of repetition. So, repetition of something under the floorboards, whether you're in a dream and then later you're there. There's a repetition and inversion of. The murder and the disposing of bodies above, then disposing of bodies below. There's the humiliation of flatmates, and then being humiliated in return. And of course, there is the bit we talked about earlier, where you have the Alex being dominated by Juliet, and then you invert that. So it's a nice little recurring pattern that they keep doing. It's very nicely done. Yeah, I'm enjoying that. Oh, and Dr. Prepper's picked up on something. Yes, He's a guy who has to write it all down. He's a scribe. Nice messaging.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well done, John Hodges. We like your work. But yeah, moving on to Little Gamba's comment, Little Gamba, that's also a good point. Sorry, Mergit, you were reading that out and I sort of cut you off to finish the point. Do you want to go back to that one?
Yeah, making your characters disempowered and inexperienced is key to making them feel like an everyman. It makes confrontations have a sense of dread, I think. And yes, it does, because it's in the end fight. Well, when the thugs confront them and tie them up and start beating on them, the look on their face is very similar to the look on their faces when the fight starts in the kitchen, and then Alex breaks down and giggles. There is the sense of dread there. I fully agree with Little Gamba.
Yeah, I mean, they're extremely relatable in that, like, they're just in a bigger than you would actually expect flat. I should point out this is actually a set. A lot of their money was spent on making the flat a set, and you can understand why. You want all that room to move around in with your camera. So there you go. The Enriab, we should have you on. Yeah, great. Another inversion. Cameron dominated and humiliated, and in the end he gets to turn it round. And yes, you've got the angle from above in both cases. Excellent stuff. But yeah, with the everyman thing, I think they do make it very relatable, even if I feel a bit distanced from it, because that sort of 90s Gen X snark thing feels really old now. But they become relatable, and you do have this scenario of, like, wouldn't you be tempted? This money's just kind of turned up. It's incredibly down to earth and believable.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
But
Maybe it's just because I'm not an idiot, but if I happened upon millions of pounds worth of crime money, I would leave it where it was and never think about it again, because I'm not stupid.
Well, I mean, either that or, you just take a completely different tactic altogether. I mean, there's nothing that at that point in time, right? There was no reason to believe that they actually had that there was anybody who knew about this money. So they could have just said, "Oh no, this guy has overdosed in our apartment," and just hid the money.
Or Alex does try and do the right thing, and David stops him by yanking the phone cord from under the door.
Yeah, I know, but then they could have saved themselves a lot of hassle just by maybe not. I mean, obviously they still have the other two to deal with later on in the film, but at least they wouldn't have, I don't know, the moral quandary of that other of that other guy on their hands,
True. Getting on to maybe some more direct criticism before. Oh, actually, I had one question, and then I wanted to go on to some maybe direct criticism. I got a vibe when I was watching this, especially when it was doing some lovely stuff at the start, zooming through the city, and then cutting to the woods where the camera was moving slowly, and then back to zooming through the city, giving this frenetic energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whilst also making the woods seem like this kind of doom, this sense of fatalism, like you can rush around the city, but the wood is inevitable. Brilliant shot at the start. Stuff like that, stuff like a lot of the creative angles that we saw, especially this, I really thought of Spaced.
Okay.
I got that vibe from this film. I don't know if I'm alone in that. If you guys know Spaced, if you remember it, feels like no one talks about it.
I might have
anymore.
watched it. I've seen thousands of films. Which one is that again?
I've never seen the series Spaced. I'm aware
it's not
of
a
it.
film, it's a
Simon
series.
Pegg, right?
Simon,
one,
early Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright, the guy who made Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz,
Oh, I know who he is, but no, I'm not familiar with Spaced. I'm sorry.
Do you know
Okay.
what? I never watched an episode of Spaced.
No worries, no worries. I'll leave it.
I watched
to the
all of
chat.
Mighty Boosh though.
And weirdly, I've never seen an episode of that because I can't stand Noel Fielding.
I don't like him either, but a friend of mine recommended the show and wanted to watch it with me, so I watched it all in one sitting with him, and
Oh, wow.
we had a good time of it. It was I think it was a Saturday. We watched it all on a Saturday, I think.
Oh, damn. Right. I'll leave it to chat if they get the vibe of Spaced from this. Now, remember, Spaced came about 4 years after this, so it's not impossible that they saw it and thought, "Oh, I kind of like what you're doing here." I'll move on from that. I just thought, in terms of direct criticism, one, I was going to. Oh, did I get any Last Supper vibes? I do like The Last Supper. I've actually got a video of it on this channel. I think I talked about it I think it was with Auron McIntyre and Last Things. I think I coaxed them on. I'm trying to think who it was. I think it might have been them. Yeah, 1995, Cameron Diaz. You can watch
They
my
were
video.
both at the OGC meetup a couple weeks ago. I went to. It was lovely getting to hang out with them again.
Nice. Very nice, yeah. I didn't get the same vibes from it at all, to be honest. I think like totally different vibe. Far less artsy for one. But yeah, I do know the one you mean. That's gonna bug me. Who was on that stream? I'm gonna move on. Criticism wise, and I'll try and make this very quick. Obviously, what happens in the end is a very telegraphed switcheroony of the cash. What on earth is Alex doing with all the newspaper in a brief scene where we see him cutting the newspaper up? What on earth could he be doing? I was wondering, does he actually have an opportunity to do the switcheroo? So I was trying to piece when he actually did it.
My main criticism would be that at what point would Alex be able to get into the well-concealed and very well-guarded swamp cooler tank to make this switch and get the money under the floorboards without David knowing? Like, at what point did he? Because remember, at this point already, David is already in the attic. So
he's called in sick to work. He said it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, he said his mother's sick. He can't come in. So,
just to answer your question, your Last Supper review was Last Things in Pharaoh.
Oh, Pharaoh. Oh, yes. That makes sense. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. So we've got someone, Night Unfurls at Splendor says, there's a scene of Alex taking the suitcase out of the tank. Yeah, I was trying to think if it comes in time though.
I thought him taking out of the tank was him taking out money for them to. It's supposed to be him taking out money for him and Juliet to go on their spending spree. That's how it's presented, I think. But he's right. There is a scene of him taking the money. So clearly, we are to believe there was at least a little bit of time for them to take some money without David knowing it. But getting all of the money under the floorboards without either Juliet or David knowing it, I mean, I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility, but the way that David is presented as being hyper paranoid and losing his damn mind, it just seems a bit unrealistic, because we're to get the vibe that David doesn't really leave the attic except to like go to the bathroom and take a shower. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's a vibe I got, because I rewatched trying to think, hang on, when did he actually do this? When did he do the needful? Gosh, there was another criticism I had. I was trying to put it together. I've forgotten it, so I'll open it up. Was there anything else you guys thought of? Sort of does that work?
That one's a pretty good discontinuity. I could see where they do it.
Maybe Night Unfurls is correct. I'm sorry to interrupt. Night Unfurls just said that he thinks that David put the suitcase in the tank after their spending spree. That could be it. Like I said, I just watched it once, so I could be misremembering here, and I didn't go through it with a fine-toothed comb making notes, but you might be right about that. But from my one viewing, I don't recall there being that was one of the things that stood out in my mind at the reveal at the end when the newspaper was in the suitcases. I thought to myself, when did Alex have time to do that? When did he do that? Like maybe he did it. Maybe what's the commenter's name? Night Unfurls. Maybe Night Unfurls is correct. Maybe this all happened very early in the film, and it's more intelligent than I'm giving it credit for. Maybe upon a second rewatch, there are clues that Alex made the swap very early on. But if he did that sort of, I don't know how that would work, I guess, because...
I can help out on that. Alex gets the idea to hide it under the floorboards after he has a dream about the police inspectors.
Okay.
And it's a brief shot, so that's quite late in the movie, and I think they have already gone spending. So it would have to be after the scene where he brings all these newspapers home. But yeah, I was watching, trying to put it together and trying to see when he would do it. It's possible, but you just need an opportunity for David to go out and not see it, which I'm just not sure that he... I just couldn't work out when he would do that, you know? Like I say, I really like this movie. I watched it a ridiculous number of times because I'm old, folks. You will remember back in the day, you didn't, maybe you had 30 VHSs. Like it was, you didn't have all that many. So if you got something, you watched the heck out of that. So I must watch.
Yeah, in the before time,
times.
you were limited to what you owned and what was at the local video store. That was it.
Totally. So it's got a few dozen watches, but yeah, just going back to it, like it was bugging me. I was trying to work out when did he actually do that. The other criticism I have that I remembered, and this is, forgive me, it's a basic point. It's the death of David, which I can't show on screen. So I'll just get you a nice visual from the fight.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
How it goes vertically through his neck rather than horizontally because of the way the vertebrae go.
Oh, no. Well, it was more... Well, maybe that's key to it. I just didn't like how he got the knife through the throat and then instantly stopped. It just seemed a bit more stylistic and cinematic than the otherwise just, brutal realism.
Yeah, there should have been some gurgling and thrashing after that. Yeah.
Exactly.
He just turns off like an enemy in a video game. Just bloop, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. It's a great shot, but it's a bit too... They want him to stop dead so that Juliet's betrayal can land.
Which cinematically, that's not a bad choice. Like I'm not faulting Boyle for that, but the other violence in the movie is presented more realistically with a lot of crying and struggling and thrashing, and this was more... This definitely was cinematic art of he got stabbed, sound cuts, he's totally still, and then you let the betrayal land, which I understand as a storyteller why you would make that choice. I get it. But that is a fair criticism.
The other one that I had was when Alex was called by his editor to go investigate his own crime. And he's sitting in the police briefing and freaks out. But the more I think about it, that's why the detectives caught on to it, because they watched him flee.
Yeah.
And wanted to talk to him again. So that's not so much as a criticism as my oversight, my forgetting what was going on.
No, that's a good catch. That is a very good catch for how they well, it's, I suppose you need that coincidence, but I do like the idea that it's a sort of lady doth protest too much thing that gives a game away. Sorry, just before we go a bit further, I just want to thank Adam Loves Horror for sending $5, naming very bad things, Dead Man on Campus. Oh, is that a rare pick? Are you? Do you mean Dead Man on Campus, the Matthew Lillard movie? Or was that Dead Man's Curve?
I don't
and
remember.
this rare Matthew Lillard movie, if it's the one I'm thinking of, and Very Bad Things I remember was Cameron Diaz and
Yeah.
Christine Slater. I've not seen it, but it's got a good cover.
Yeah,
People love a
I've also
chainsaw.
not seen it. But again, that's not really my kind of movie. When
Yeah.
it comes to horror, I like really scary supernatural stuff or interesting, like almost fantasy adventure supernatural horror.
Continuing, the 90s Waking Up to Dead, 90s loved Waking Up to Dead People, true. It's also given me Old Country for Old Men vibes. Well, yeah, it's a classic story. It's an absolutely classic story. And as we say, oftentimes with horror, we're working with a simple tale and it's all about how we tell it. Thank you very much for the $5. Much appreciated. And yeah, that's sort of the end of the criticism because, you know, when we get to Juliet's betrayal, I kind of have to say, I love it.
Yeah,
It's a turning point in the movie. That wonderful music kicks in and pays off. It's all about that moment, isn't it?
Yeah, the ending is well done, and I was satisfied. Like the structure and the presentation of the second and third act were not bad. I just thought that they were weaker than like the first half of the movie.
Oh,
But
yeah,
I did
think
like
that's fair.
her betrayal scene, her realizing she'd been had. I did like that.
Yeah, there's a great point. I'm sorry, whoever said it, you made an amazing point that Juliet hammers a knife in with a shoe that she had on when she was sort of dominating Alex at the dance. Absolutely fantastic catch. Again, it's a simple movie, but there's a few nice things to catch in there and to analyze. And yeah, it gets us to this image at the end and paying off with a faux ironic old style crooner. You love to see it. You absolutely love to see it. Patrick Batman is trying to distract us by mentioning Christina Hendricks. We are not going to let a third stream get distracted by her.
Step over.
At the moment.
Hold on, chat.
No, we're not doing it. We're not doing it.
Hold on, chat.
You know what happens. We can't Hendrix post. We have gone to we've gone past 9:30, and we're saying we are aiming for that efficient stream. So we're kind of at the end of the movie now. I will throw it open to the panel to give their closing thoughts and scores. So if there's anything we've missed, sort of get it in the closing scores there. Muggy, would you like to lead us off with closing thoughts and scores? And chat, if you watch this movie, throw it in there. Throw it in there for us. Let us know where you came on this one.
Okay. Cute, efficient thriller comedy, sometimes too cute for its own good. I give it 7 burgers, half a spicy pickle, some ketchup, and a hammer directly to the face.
It's a well hammered patty.
Yeah. I liked it, and I would recommend it to somebody who's looking for an art house pick. But other than that, I wouldn't watch it again. One-time viewing.
Yeah, fair. All right. So, yeah, 7. Very respectable. TCG, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Mergu on that one. It was an all right film. It was a good story. And I'd probably score it 8 out of 12 burgers because yeah, it was pretty cool. So sorry if that offended the children in the audience.
Oh, did you see it? A little horror show getting a little cameo, bless her.
But
no, it's back to the Gatsby days, isn't it?
Oh, Aw's in the chat. Come on, oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of with Mergu. I mean, I think this is kind of like a one and done for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd recommend it. Absolutely would recommend it. But yeah, it's not one that I'd go back to like super quickly. As much as I liked Ewan MacGregor's character, there's only so much of the Scottish accent I can take before I'm like, right, okay, that's enough now.
Dankula most affected.
Yeah.
Oh god, we got Ted coming in as well.
Ted posting.
Oh, hello, Ted. All right, sorry, what was that score again, TCG?
8. Oh, solid.
Okay, an 8, but a one and done. Very respectable. Very respectable. And Yes, how about yourself?
I like this movie more than I think Mergoot and TCG. I scale out of 11 ghosts, and I give this a 7.5 out of 11 ghosts. The half is because Ewan MacGregor wore a very nice sequined evening dress. It was nice. I joke, of course. No, I give it a 7.5 because even though this movie is not my cup of tea, it's very well done. It has criticism. It, of course, has some problems that we've criticized. But as a popcorn film, as a product of the time that it came out, this is a good film. You can definitely see that it had a good writer and an excellent director. They knew what they were doing, both of them. They created an enjoyable, interesting, dark, and funny, and engaging, and thrilling experience, which is not easy to get all of those things together in one bundle. And they did it in 88 minutes. So I think that this deserves a noticeable... I'm sorry, I think that this should get a notable higher than average grade. So 7 out of 11 ghosts from me. And even though I won't be watching this again, if you like this kind of film, you'll probably really enjoy it and might even score much higher than what I would give it just for personal satisfaction. But qualitatively, I liked this film. Sort of like admiring a piece of artwork when you're an art critic. If it's not something that you like personally, but you recognize the skill and the talent and the color theory usage and things, you can say this is an excellent painting, even if I don't particularly like it. That's how I am with this film. I think this film was very good. And I don't really have anything negative to say about it. And I do recommend people watch it. I just personally, it's not my cup of tea, but I am glad I saw it, and now I get to talk to Chloe about it.
Oh, we always enjoy that side, don't we? It's always a bonus. How about that everyone's pretty unified on this, and I think that's good. That's very good. Let me throw this out. I had a kind of vibe when I was watching this. If you were absolutely ruthless, I feel like this could be a really good Tales from the Crypt episode.
I could see that.
Brutal with a story, you could probably get it in. What do you reckon?
Maybe to one of the 50-minute arcs versus the 25-minute arcs.
Yeah, it strikes me that even though it's a good 88 minutes, I do think you could trim some storylines that aren't very necessary, like the Juliet Stalker thing, and you could probably get yourself an incredibly taut 45-minute, 50-minute with really good payoff. Black Mirror style thing. So throwing that out there. Before I give my thought, guys, would you agree? Do you think that holds up?
Yeah, I think so.
Would you have preferred it that way?
No, I wouldn't, because it's only 88 minutes, and I feel like if you start cutting out enough to trim it down to be a 45 to 55 minute TV episode thing, I think that this would lose too much of what makes it good. You kind of need every piece of this to make it work and be the piece of art that it is. Like, if you start trimming it out, what would you trim out? Like seriously, that's a question to you right now, PH. What would you trim out? But what 20 or 30 minutes of this would you cut out and it still land the same? I can't think of a single scene.
If I had to, so if I were going to do it, I'd probably chuck out most of the interview stuff. I'd chuck out the scenes in David's office. I'd probably try and really centralize around one character. And I'd remove the stalker subplot. And then otherwise you're just sort of trimming bits here and there. Or make something like the two professionals come immediately to their house without doing the burglary. But again, you could do it. But now when you say it, I'm starting to think, yeah, maybe you're taking out too much of the flavor, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that it would be like covering up pieces of a painting. Like what pieces of the painting do you cover up? And to me, the stuff with the interviews at the beginning, it sets up the nice dovetail reversal with them being grilled by the detectives later, and you don't have the bathroom scene come up and land because there's nothing to set that up. And if you try to focus on just one character, then you kind of know that character is probably not going to be the one who is guilty of, who is going to quote unquote win, I guess I should say, and get the money. Like if you start trying to rework and trim this down, you're making it an entirely different project, in my opinion. Like I don't see, other than just a handful of minutes, I don't know what you could cut out of this and it still be the same thing.
We'll end up at TikTok horror if we take that.
Yeah.
All right.
Bring back Vine.
Step over the Zoomers. Fair play. I'm convinced. We've had a generous super chat here. Thank you, Dollface, sending £10, saying definitely check out A Simple Plan from 1998 if you like this. Very similar premise of three friends finding a lot of dodgy money. Directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bill Paxton. We like Bill Paxton, and yeah, that's one of Sam Raimi's weirder ones. The guy goes rogue. He covers a lot of weird stuff. It was 2 years after this he made The Gift, which is like his sort of very somber. Well, it's a horror, but it's absolutely not The Evil Dead. Raimi has a lot of room, a lot of variety. Yeah, great recommendation. Good call. Absolutely approve that. And there's also £5 has come from Patrick Batman. Thank you very much. Recommending Profit. I have never heard of this. Richard,
it's a 90s TV series, 90s or 2000s TV series.
Oh.
It stars Adrian Pastar. And
What, from here?
he's a sociopathic businessman.
Hang on.
And it's brutal. It only lasted one season, but it was very, very entertaining.
Right, I'm pulling it up. I like the sound of that. Gosh, I've got so much to work through. I've got to check out the booth at the end that was recommended. I'm afraid prepping the Kubrick stuff and Little Horror Show, I'm not getting a lot of watching time. Well, I'm getting a bit of watching time, but I'm going to be honest with you folks. I'll let you in on a little behind the scenes. I have managed to get waifu hooked on Supernatural.
Oh,
and
yes.
we're blitzing it.
Yes.
We're absolutely blitzing it. We're in season 4 at the moment.
Oh wow. How many episodes you get through a day?
Oh well, when we get to, we'll do 2 episodes at a time, but it's the go-to once Little Horror Show's asleep. So it's like, right, she's gone out. We don't want to move. Let her get settled. Let's pop on Supernatural. So yeah, that's the go-to. So that's dominating, which is why I've not checked out the other stuff.
Do you know? I was talking to my wife about it the other day, and I was actually saying I think I might get back into it again. I might do another run. But yeah, she's trying to get her best mate / sister-in-law to watch Desperate Housewives, and I don't care what anyone thinks. I actually really rate that show. I really do.
I don't like watching shows. They're just not for me.
I mean, if it helps, it's pre-2010. Well, some of it is at least. But honestly, like I think it's really well written, and you know, unlike Supernatural, where I mean, I still rate Supernatural over it anyway, but I think, and I've said this to my missus, where there's some episodes of Supernatural, some seasons even, where it's a real struggle to get through. You know, Sam and Dean are like the only good thing of that show that will literally get you through it. With Desperate Housewives, I swear to God, I can't tell you an episode where I'm like, nah, that was crap. It's always like, okay, cool, let's watch another one. Yeah,
Oh, you said season 4, right? Proper
Supernatural, yeah.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Monster Movie, the one in black and white? I think it's episode 5 or 6.
Yes. Yes, we have.
Yes,
A good time was had. But Patrick Batman, thank you. So I haven't heard of this. I've seen that David Greenwalt was behind it. I'm looking in the cast and I'm seeing quite a few Buffy extras. So, well, the one that stands out is Keith Sarabikia. So Holtz from season 3 of Angel. I'm intrigued. I'll give it a go. It just might take me a long time. So forgive me. Folks, right. Lovely. Thank you very much, guys. General Super Chats, very much appreciated. Didn't quite make 90 minutes, but we are well within Super Nanny's approval. So I think we did a good job tonight, folks.
I think we did.
Yeah. The NREAB has added that there's a good few short animated vids on YouTube telling the Pardoner's tale. So I would recommend, I didn't want to read the wiki while I was streaming, but check it out. I bet, I mean, the NREAB, you are trusted. I'm sure that holds up, but recommended for anyone who wants to check the comparisons. So, oh gosh, I didn't do my own closing thoughts and scores. Right, very quickly. Simple, classic tale. It's told very well. I like that there's a bit of psychological imagery that gets in there. And I think the presentation is also very standout and I believe later influential in a series like Spaced. These all work in Shallow-Grave's favour. I think the music was absolutely wonderful. Really added to it. You got great performances. And the thing that really helped it was just this quite standout, budget-friendly, smart decision to make the violence just kind of off-screen or where it was on screen very unglamorous and immediate, which meant it landed. When I say landed, it means in that scene where Ewan MacGregor's kneecaps are shattered with, are whacked with a crowbar.
It's not his knees, it's his lower shins.
Yeah, lower shins, sorry. I felt that. I winced. It's brutal. It's very brutal. Yeah, rough stuff. So it works for me. I'm probably a bit more generous to it, even though I ended up, I think, kind of hampered by the fact that on this rewatch, I realized I really wasn't rooting for anyone, which is a bit of a problem. So I'm gonna knock it down for that, but it's a 9 for me. I think it's taut. I would absolutely recommend it, though you maybe wouldn't get as many rewatches as I did, because you're a bit more balanced. So yeah, 9 burgers, unexpected pickle in one part. What can you do? And a restrained but appropriate amount of ketchup. So yeah, I'll go for that. Patrick Batman asking about music videos, who left a helpful suggestion. I think we will do the scary music videos topic. That's probably one for next week if we cover it, but I'll check those out. But with that, I'm going to end the stream. I think we rounded everything off. I will repeat the horror homework. Mima, the horror homework, we are doing Mute Witness, which I believe was 95. Mute Witness. It's a weird one. It's kind of cool. Look that up. All right. Panelists, thank you ever so much. Very much appreciated.
Pleasure
Thank
as
you
always.
very much for having me.
Tune
Always
in
glad
9
to be
p.m.
here.
tomorrow.
Yep, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your shilling. Go ahead.
No, say 9 p.m. tomorrow, UK time.
Do it. And if you're
Cheers,
curious,
games.
if you're curious, follow years after this and check out Empire of Lies. It's a little different to what we do. It's a little political and philosophical. Give it a go.
It's educational more than anything.
Educational,
It's
yeah.
educational and inspirational. We'll be
Exactly.
live on my channels in 1 hour from now with Empire of Lies.
There you go. There you go. All right. Yeah, so people's links are in the description. I will post Empire of Lies again.
Thank you.
And you've got, I'll just post that link there. You got TCG's quiz tomorrow night. Go and check it out. And Mogu, follow on Twitter. Folks, you've got your horror homework. We've been discussing Shallow Grave. It's been an excellent panel, and you guys have been absolutely fab. And we didn't Sargon post all night.
Oh, that's great.
Way. All right, cool. I'm gonna end the stream. I'll be getting to bed because I need to head to Swindon. I don't know when those videos coming out, but watch out for them. I'll be shouting about them. Okay, folks. Thanks very much. I'll be signing off now. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
Bentley.